Hey there friends, what's up? Kevin here from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel. Today is day 2 of our year-end awards series, and we're going to be taking a look at the 5 most surprising albums from the year 2020. Before we get started, please follow MSOTD Rocks on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You'll be notified anytime anything comes out on all those platforms, from the YouTube channel, the podcast, any post, whatever it might be. We also post a new song of the day feature with 30-second clips for you to get into the song every single day from some of the bigger groups in the scene, along with a lot of the emerging acts in the scene as well, so you can expand your musical knowledge of what's current and what's going to be upcoming. We ask a lot of questions to you guys on those platforms as well to interact with you. And on Instagram, we go live every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Time for an hour to talk to you guys and have a blast, and anything goes. We also do an IGTV video every single Tuesday night to give you behind the scenes look at what's going on here right now. Please also subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not, because not only will you get the rest of the year-end awards and be notified when that happens, you'll be notified anytime any of our other videos release, such as our album reviews, the Kevin Figures Out series, where I try to figure out if I like certain bands or not that I'm not that well versed in, our special videos regarding the emerging bands in the scene today, and any top 10 lists that we do. Those should come out every single Wednesday night, so make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button so that every time a video comes out, you know when that happens. And this is also where the Chord Progression podcast lies. It is our very own podcast where we are interviewing all the emerging rock and metal bands in the scene today. They're going to be the biggest bands in the next 10 years. And you get an in-depth look with those bands like you never would before. And it allows you to get in with those bands and become fans of them, so that when they're the biggest bands in the world, you can look back and say, hey, I knew about them before you did. You can watch interviews here on YouTube, or you can listen to them on Spotify, Podcasts, Google Play, and iHeart Radio. Links in the description below for everything, so like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about it. But enough of that, let's go. So a little bit of background before we get started. The most surprising album of the year award usually goes to a band that just surprised the hell out of us with an album, whether it was something that we had no idea this album was coming out and it did, or a band that had a couple of bad releases in the past, according to popular opinion, or our opinion as well, and they came out with a release that completely blew us away, or just something of a potential newcomer that we had no idea would blow our socks off, and they absolutely did, or something completely random that we weren't expecting that came out incredibly well. Take a look at a couple of past winners. In 2018, our pick was the Ghost Note Symphony's album from Rise Against, because they did an acoustic reimagining where they took their songs, completely deconstructed them, and redid them with a whole acoustic, like hauntingly beautiful vibe that still hit you the exact same in terms of impact, but hit you in so many different ways. So that's why it was picked number 1 in 2018. And in 2019, The Dead Days by Get Scared. With their final album with no press behind it, it came through with a vast array of post-hardcore, pop-punk, metalcore sounds, all blend together real nicely, and for a last album from Get Scared, it was really well done. So that's why it was picked for 2019. So who's gonna win 2020? Let's go to number 5. Coming at number 5, we have F8 or Fate by the band Five Finger Death Punch. Now, I can already tell some of you guys are probably like ready to smash those keyboards and tell me that I'm wrong, but hear me out, and I do know that some people think that this album was not very good. Take a look at our friend Julian, aka Mr. Heavy Metal Joker, where when the album came out, he thought it was alright. He thought it was a good turn for the band, but as time went on, he really didn't like it nearly as much, saying that the music was rather standard to what they had been expecting to do, which really cares more that, Monster Energy drinking, truck driving crowd. I think Finn McKenzie from the Punk Rock NBA called them the ultimate Chad band, so you can see there's some parity there between those two guys. And Julian also said that with Ivan's turn going sober and really going through a lot of things in his life, from when And Justice for None came out till F8 or Fate, that he should have put a lot more of that into his lyrics to really make it more personal, but doesn't feel that he did. My opinion though, it's different, but I wanted to bring that up so that you can see that, again, we're not all going to have the same opinions on these things. I do respect Julian for making that opinion though, so I wanted to bring it up here. Also, good job, Julian. So why is F8 at number 5? With Julian, I have to disagree with him on the fact with Ivan Moody not putting his personal experiences into this. I just didn't think they were as blatant as you would expect, but they definitely were there, and I thought it gave the album a little bit more substance. Even John from ARTV and Luke from Rocked even said the same thing about And Justice for None, where it was just a lot of the same from Got Your Six. It was just kind of repetitive at the same time. However, I did see some difference in F8 that I was rather surprised with. Taking a look at the lead single Inside Out, where Ivan talks about how he was going through all this stuff and going through all the depression of trying to get over drugs, get sober, and dealing with the death of some close friends, including Chester Bennington of Linkin Park. And when you take a look at the song, the chorus really takes this more emotional touch from Ivan, and he really shows with it, because you get this whole sense he's talking about the battles of addiction, so he wants to be himself instead of this former version of himself. And the lyrics that are written, I can't accuse them of being bland or corny, as Ivan takes more of an anger approach to them, so you really get that overall feel from Ivan Moody on this. Then take a look at a song like Bottom of the Top, where they're talking about how people assume that they need to be a certain way in order for society to accept them, but that's never going to work out for them in the long term, much like Ivan having to go with a certain persona and not being his true self. And vocally, this one is rather interesting, because in the lyrics you can get this very standard style from Ivan that you got on a lot of Five Finger Death Punch albums. But when you go to the chorus, it's rather different, because he sings it with this rougher, gruffier sound. By the pattern of the vocals, it kind of reminds me of something like by Sum 41. Rather interesting, but I thought, you know what, this actually is pretty dang cool, because when you get to the bridge, you get more of a mixture of that classic Wrong Side of Heaven vibe, along with a rough and more unclean style from Ivan. And it's just a great mixture overall, so you really get a lot more substance just from Ivan Moody's vocals on that song. Now we go to Scar Tissue, and this one kind of seems like it's about someone going through a rather traumatic event, such as a divorce or a breakup, and the emotional toll that it takes on someone. And I loved Ivan's vocals on this one, because when you take a look at the verses, it's rather classic Five Finger Death Punch. It's angry from Ivan, and it really fits well with the thrash metal style that the instrumentals are going with. Then in the chorus, you get the same stuff from the instrumentals, but the vocals are clear. They're a lot more melodic. They're a lot smoother. And the contrast with the instrumentation on this is fantastic. But what really stands out is how they transition from one part of the verse to the chorus, because it's really quick, it's tough, and it really makes you feel like you got hit in the face. So there is that Scar Tissue moment there that's going to leave an impact in sound. Even with a little bit off, where it was perfect for the pandemic, where it's just kind of, you know, you're trying to make these changes and you just don't feel like yourself anymore. You're just trying to get back to it. I wasn't the biggest fan of it at first, but it really did grow on me as time went on, because it was slower, more melodic, and Ivan Moody's vocals not really showing that anger and kind of showing a little bit more of a downtrodden, lost feel to them, really did work out well to bring that out. So I thought overall, with Ivan's vocals, we saw a lot more of a dynamic style on F8 that really showed a lot more emotion in the songs overall, which really gave them more substance than what they had on Got Your Six and Injustice for None. But why is it at number 5 and not higher? Oh, there was some times and there were some songs felt like they were rather filler in terms of the classic, what you would expect from Five Finger Death Punch style. There were dynamic sounds from Ivan Moody's vocals, in my opinion, but there were times where it was just pretty safe, pretty filler-like, and it just really didn't connect with me overall. So I did think it was a good turn from Five Finger Death Punch, so that's why it's on the surprising list, but that's why it's at number 5.
I'm so afraid of me, so what's it gonna be?
At number 4, we have the album New Empire, Volume 1 by Hollywood Undead. And looking back at the album, I was nervous when Volume 1 was about to come out, because over the past 2 releases from Hollywood Undead, I was not the biggest fan of what they did. Taking a look at 5, they focused on a much softer, more melodic style, especially in the middle of the album, and they took a lot of that cocky energy that they had. They did bring out a couple of songs like Riot and especially California Dreamin', but there was a big miss from that real cocky, innate energy that they had on albums like Swan Songs, American Tragedy, and Day of the Dead. Then they went with the Psalms EP, which brought more of a softer, more impactful, emotional style they tried to go with, like they did on Notes from the Underground, and it was just softer overall, and I just really didn't connect with it. So I was worried to see what was going to happen with New Empire Volume 1. And taking a look at the singles, I was a little thrown off, because with Time Bomb, I like the fact that all 5 guys were finally back in the song, from Johnny 3 Tears, Charlie Scene, J-Dog, Funny Man, and Danny. And it did have some of that cocky energy there, but it just wasn't fully there, especially when you got to the verses on this one. Then you got to Already Dead, and it wasn't something I was big on at first because of the slower pace, but the anger and more concentrated sound with some of the ranging vocals from Danny really showed a great thing in the chorus, and really showed that we've got a lot more substance going here. Kind of reminded me of Dark Places in a way, if it was a lot more melodic and a lot more powerful in the chorus. Then you go to Empire, which really made me nervous, because I felt like they went with more of an electronic sense, really cater to a younger crowd. and it just really didn't feel like them. However, they did waste a big opportunity here because J-Dog's vocals on Empire, I should say, were fantastic. But once the album dropped and I was listening to it, I was pleasantly surprised at what they were able to pull off in this one. And there are 3 songs to really take a look into it. Take a look at the initial version of Heart of a Champion, where you see that cocky energy, the more concentrated cocky energy on something like Day of the Dead that really brought out a lot of power, a lot of vigor, especially in Johnny Three Tears' rapping style, and then Charlie's to follow it, and Danny's classic, just powerful vocals in the chorus to contrast against the rap style. It worked out great to bring back that cocky energy. Then go to a song like Enemy, where that one was fantastic, especially when you had J-Dog and Funny Man going back and forth with a much faster, energetic pace that really brought out this anger and cocky energy that was all over the place. Even when you had Johnny Three Tears in the second verse, well, it worked out just as well. And then you had Danny in the chorus, and with the more melodic style to his vocals, with that faster pace energy, and just the power behind the higher pitched vocal style, my God, was this a pleasant surprise. I was so damn happy when this one came out. Even when they went with a little bit more of a slower pace, kind of try and bring back some of that Notes from the Underground kind of style, and they brought a feature on it, I thought it really worked out well, because when you take a look at a song like Upside Down, J-Dog in the first verse, again, more with a piercing pain feel in his vocals, combined with Johnny Three Tears gradually amping up his rap throughout the second verse, played well with the more melodic style that Danny was going to go with in the chorus. However, when you got to the bridge and Kellen Quinn was featured, the higher pitched out Kellen Quinn's vocals contrasted perfectly against what Johnny Three Tears had done in the previous verse, but worked in so well in comparison with Danny's vocal style, so you really brought it full circle on this one. I was really pleased with this. However, why is it coming at number 4? There were certain songs where I was a little bit thrown off, and I'm not going to include New Empire Volume 2 in with this one because they are 2 separate releases that came out at different times. And if you watch our review for New Empire Volume 2, I was not really the biggest fan of that turn. But when you take a look at New Empire Volume 1, were there some things that kept it a little bit further down this list than could have been up? Yeah, take a look at a song again like Empire with just that heavy electronic style, and it felt like they really wasted J-Dog's powerful vocal styles on this. Then you also take a look at the song Killin' It, which was one of my least favorite from the year, because it seems like when you listen to it, it's a shame that the content construction of the lyrics is so well done. We're taking a look at the different experiences from guys like J-Dog, Charlie, and from Johnny Three Tears, but then you get to the chorus and it just stands in their way and just completely ruins everything about the song, in my opinion. It was a major missed opportunity, but for the most part, I was really surprised with New Empire Volume 1. I was really happy with it, so that's why it's on the list. Coming in at number 3, we have the album Restitch These Wounds by Black Veil Brides. I know what you're thinking, wait, Kevin, what the heck are you actually doing? This was a re-recording of their initial album from 2009, and you're putting it on the surprising list? Yeah, Rise Against His Ghost Knows If He's won in 2018, this could definitely be on here. So why is it on the list? And it's because with 10 plus years experience now in Black Veil Brides, and with a full production budget and a full knowledge of how to pull this off, they were able to re-record these things in a better way than they had in 2008, 2009, so they were able to record them in the way that they wanted to. And for the most part, these songs came out even better than the originals. But let's take a look at them to really give you a little taste. Taking a look at the re-release of We Stitch These Wounds, taking a look at the titular track, the re-release had the guitar style not nearly as choked up, so it felt like the song had a lot more density to it. That's really what it needed to really stand out. Plus, Andy's vocals being a little bit more mature added to that density, so we got a lot here. With Perfect Weapon, you can say the exact same thing as the titular song We Stitch These Wounds, because they decided not to choke up on the guitar as much and just let it flow a lot more naturally. And that density brought out just made the song feel like it was more full and more complete and had more power behind it. And again, when you have Andy's vocals a little bit more mature, especially in the chorus of these songs, it really stood out to be something where, yeah, you can tell they're the same songs, but they're just better done, and you can tell that them being matured by about a little more than 10 years really stands out, especially with Andy's vocals. Taking a look at Sweet Blasphemy, this is probably the best case of the re-recording really going well, because in the original, the drumming was so overpronounced that it just really took a lot out of the beauty that is Sweet Blasphemy. However, the redoing of it really made that balance work out incredibly well, so you had a great amount of substance coming in here. Plus, when you listen to Andy's vocals on this track, understanding vocal patterns now after 10 plus years of really focusing in on this, it made this song hit with so much more of a beauty and so much more of a vibrato than the original did. So the re-recording of Sweet Blasphemy was absolutely beautiful. This album, pretty much all the re-recordings of these were pretty dang good. So why is it coming at number 3? Well, it comes at number 3 because it was a re-recording of an album from 10 years ago. And while it was good, I just don't think that a re-recording without really some like new redoings and new re-experimentations really deserves that top spot. Plus, there was one song on here that really did not stand out well in comparison to the original, and that is probably their most famous song on this album, Knives and Pens. When you listen to the re-recording right in the intro, I really have no idea why they brought in this like sloppier snare sound and mixed with a slightly lower tuned guitar on this one, because lower tuned guitar isn't the problem here. It's just that sloppier snare is way too overpowering. Like I said, the drums were on Sweet Blasphemy, and the song just seems like it just is sloppier more compared to the original. And I kind of like the original more. So that's kind of why it's going to be stuck at number 3. Coming at number 2, we have the EP Post-Human Survival Horror by Bring Me the Horizon. So why is this on the list? Well, taking a look at their previous work from 2019, Amo really rubbed a good amount of fans the wrong way. While some fans liked it and a lot of publications liked it, myself, I really didn't care for it at all. With a lot of the electronic pop sounds there, it really took out a lot of that innate anger that Bring Me the Horizon had in all of their music at their core. Then they came out with their songs to, God, I don't know, whatever, right at the end of 2019, and it was very experimental, and I kind of wrote that up, and I'm like, that was kind of just seems like it was there, very experimental, wasn't really a Bring Me the Horizon full thing. So really after those two, and then comparing to what they did beforehand with That's the Spirit, Sempiternal, Suicide Seasons, like there's definitely a loss here, and I was hoping, maybe with this one, Bring Me the Horizon would bring back some of that heaviness, and well, they won't be on this list if they didn't, so they did. So why this EP surprised the hell out of me, and it's because Bring Me the Horizon really went full experimental on this, but the biggest thing was they really understood what that core sound was that made stuff like Suicide Season, Sempiternal, and That's the Spirit incredibly successful in the eyes of so many, because that innate anger and roughness was there, and they really mixed in with so many great things. Take a look at Dear Diary, where when you start out with it, it just has this full-on feel of that metalcore, deathcore meets punk rock kind of vibe. It has that faster-paced energy to it, and it just brings you right into the album. Then you go to Parasite Eve, where the verses have more of this melodic electronic style, which like, what's kind of going on here? But they mix in so well with the chorus, it reminds you a lot of Can You Feel My Heart? So they did a great job mixing those in there. Then you get to Teardrops, where it has this more poppy, hip-hoppy, but also very consistently feel to something like Meteora from Linkin Park, that whole album. And the cleaner vocal style from Ali here, the mix of it works so well. Then you go to Obey, where the inclusion of Youngblood on this track actually worked out really well, because you brought in a little bit more of that melodic style a little bit to a faster-paced metalcore sound. And when you had Ali in the first verse, it worked out well because you really had this feel of Bring Me the Horizon. Then with Youngblood in the second verse, it fit in so well because they amped up the electronics in it, so it really had this powerful feel. Kingslayer is bar none the best song on this album when they mix their metalcore, deathcore sound. The screams are there from Molly Sykes, the deathcore screams, the metalcore screams. They mix it with a faster pace J-pop sound for the chorus with Baby Metal included on the track. On paper, this seemed like it wasn't going to make sense. I was excited to hear it though, and it was one of the best songs of the year, bar none. Even take a look at One by One, where they kind of brought back more of that hip-hop rap kind of style that Linkin Park would have done on Hybrid Theory and Meteora. And the mixture of Ali even bringing some of those unclean vocals at times with the more melodic style, and the Nova Twins with their inclusion on it just gave it more of a complete feel. Plus, when they went into the pre-chorus after the second verse with the Nova Twins with a lot rougher style, reminding me of something like Ash Costello, it worked out incredibly well. Even take Ludens, for example, where they went with more of an electronic style, but it had that innate roughness and anger that I thought if they went with something like this on Amo could have turned out so much better. Then there was the song One Day the Only Butterflies Left Will Be in Your Chest As You March Towards Your Death. A very soft and melodic song that I wasn't the biggest fan of it after its inclusion on the album, because everything just didn't feel like it fit with it. But if it was released as a single, I would have enjoyed it. And the comparison style with Amy Lee's clean vocals and Ali's clean vocals with the more melodic flowing ballad feel. Yeah, it really did work out well, and so many people love this, and I gotta say, that track list is absolutely insane. I didn't even mention Itch for a Cure, which is a throwback to Cure for the Itch by Linkin Park, and it leads so well into Kingslayer. Ooh, this thing was awesome. So why does this one come in at number 2 and not number 1? Well, there's a band that had been off for about 5 years after a horrible tragedy that came back with an album that detailed everything they had gone through and was a real triumph over tragedy. And that one is getting my number 1 spot. Before I reveal the number 1 spot though, let's take a look at how the fans of MSOTD Rocks voted for Most Surprising Album of the Year. Huh. Neat. And our pick for the number 1 most surprising album of the year is going to The Ghost Inside with their self-titled album. So why is this number 1? Taking a look at some of the history behind it, in November of 2015, they were involved in a bus crash that was fatal that killed their bus driver and the driver of the other car that was involved with it, with all members of the band being on that bus and injured because of it. One with Andrew Dukazik being so seriously injured that he ended up losing his leg. So there was a huge question if the Ghost Inside were going to be able to return at all to music, even the guys be able to return to all at music. And what ended up happening was Andrew's dad ended up rigging up a device that allowed him to continue to play the drums effectively as possible with not having a leg from the knee down. If you take a look at the Aftermath video, it does show this. They ended up doing a live show in 2019 to kind of announce their comeback, but in April of 2020, the release of the Aftermath single and the release of the announcement that the Ghost Side was coming out with their self-titled album, their return album, on June 5th, 2020, had everyone thinking that this could easily be a triumph over tragedy. So why is this album so good? And one of the biggest things is just the way that the album is constructed in terms of track list, because if you go from 1 all the way to the bottom with Aftermath, what you get is the story behind how the band felt from going from that bus crash to all of the stuff that was going on during the time of them trying to get back into it, and then aftermath of them looking back at everything that they had accomplished from that bus crash and up to getting back to performing and getting back to putting out new music as a group. Just that way it's constructed and the way it tells that narrative is truly incredible and really stands out tall here. One other good thing about this album is there's a mixture of clean and unclean vocals on here that really do kind of stand out, and when you take a look at it, after hearing Aftermath, which again was the first single, I was hoping we'd get some more of those clean vocals from Jonathan, and we did end up getting them in a way, because on a multitude of songs, the band took the chorus and matched Jonathan's unclean vocals with some backing clean vocals to kind of give it more of a dynamic feel. Songs like Still Alive, Make or Break, and Overexposed really make sure that ends up being out there. And what this allows the Ghost Side to do on this album is play that contrast game with the rougher style of Jonathan's vocals and contrast them with the rest of the band going clean behind him. And I love how it adds that extra dimension of epicness when you get the whole entire band behind you also kind of doing like a chant style clean vocal as well. It always adds up to me in a great way, and it did here. Two other big things I like about this album. One was the breakdowns that were on a lot of these songs were never really placed in where you'd expect them. The breakdowns were usually all over the place in terms of construction. I love that because it gave the song so much more of a dynamic feel because you weren't exactly sure when these breakdowns were coming. Take a look at Phoenix Rise with the bridge. There's a lighter instrumentation, a lighter vocal style that built something that's classic Ghost Side with a perfect metaphor of the Phoenix Rising theme of coming from the ashes and coming back from a horrible tragedy. And it gives you the feeling that the band is literally rising from the ashes after the bus crash. Then Aftermath, of course. Aftermath is such a powerful song. Like I said with the breakdown happens literally in the middle of the song, and that's where Jonathan's clean vocals come after the second verse and the second chorus. It is powerful as all hell. And this song was absolutely incredible. It was one of my favorite of the year. And with everything that happened from that bus crash till this release, this was an incredible gem, and it is the winner of our most surprising album of the year in 2020. So that's me for me today, guys. Thank you for watching, and this was day 2. Day 3, 4, and 5, we start taking a look at some of the not so good stuff in 2020. However, day 6 and 7, we end with the good stuff. So thanks for watching. This is Kevin from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel. Even though it's a beanie, let's get a hat flip in there. I missed it. See ya!